Today on the Roxom Report London, Bitcoin could hit a historic $109,000 monthly close this month. We'll take a look at how UK companies are turning to Bitcoin for their treasuries. South Koreans under 50 are adopting Bitcoin at unprecedented levels. We'll discuss why France has led the spate of kidnappings in the digital asset space, and how Bhutan became a leader in Bitcoin. All that and more today on the Roxom Report London. Good afternoon and welcome to the Roxom Report. I'm Ione Butler, coming to you live from London to give you our takes on the latest and greatest Bitcoin news. Let's get started with the biggest Bitcoin story making waves today. It's top of the block.
Okay.
As of today, Monday, June 30th, 2025, Bitcoin has closed the week just below its all-time highest weekly close, marking a major milestone in its recent price action. Over the weekend, Bitcoin traded as high as $108,500, coming within striking distance of the historic weekly close record of around $109,000 on the Bitstamp exchange. But when the week wrapped up, Bitcoin had settled at approximately $108,400. While it didn't quite hit the record, this close is still one of the highest weekly closes ever for Bitcoin, signaling strong bullish momentum. Analysts note that earlier in the month, a weekly close above $102,400 had already confirmed a breakout from Bitcoin's recent trading range. That set the stage for this latest historic run. Looking ahead, the monthly close for June could also be one for the record books. If Bitcoin holds above $104,630, it would mark the highest monthly close ever, capping off a second quarter with gains of nearly 30%. So, what's driving this strength? Let's start with the market dynamics. Over the weekend, we saw what some traders call whale games. One example, James Wynn, a large trader, opened a $13.9 million short position near $108,630, but quickly flipped to a long after prices pushed towards his liquidation level. That kind of high-stakes trading added volatility, but also helped support upward momentum. On the technical side, traders like Autumn Riley and Bitbull are pointing to bullish patterns on short-term charts, and a golden cross forming on the MACD, a sign that buyers are in control and momentum is building. Zooming out to the macro picture, the Federal Reserve has recently hinted at possible rate cuts in July, while easing inflation fears and falling oil prices are boosting investor appetite for risk, including in Bitcoin. And finally, weekend trading conditions played a role too, with low liquidity, small moves in trading. But as markets this Monday, volatility is expected to rise again, especially with key liquidity zones clustered between $98,000 and $110,000. So, in summary, Bitcoin's weekly close, just shy of $109,000, marks a historic moment. It reinforces the bullish trend and could be a launching point toward new all-time highs. The coming monthly and quarterly closes will be key to confirming that momentum. Analysts are watching that $104,600 level closely as July begins, with many expecting more fireworks ahead. Okay, heading over to Anton, our producer up above. We should be able to get him on camera now. Way, that's a first.
I'm here. Hello.
Yes, you're a real person, not just a voice. What do you make of this? How do you think this could benefit Bitcoin?
Well, this is huge. I mean, having a 109K month shows stability, not just a crazy price fluctuation. So this is massive for Bitcoin. We'll get into the stock market moves as well, but those are reaching record highs. It's just all moving along this upward record trend that is positive for everybody.
It seems so.
I also think that the relative stability right around this 100 to 110K range is proving really positive for Bitcoin as well. I mean, the less volatility, the better for making this a real contender for an actual denomination and currency in the future.
Absolutely. Yep, great points. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with That Market Watch.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's take a look at how the markets are looking right now. So, kicking off with Europe, we have the Francis CAC 40 at 7,695. That's up just slightly, 0.05%. Everything else is down, very, very slightly, but down nonetheless. Germany's DAX Performance Index, 23,990, down 0.18%. Euro Stoxx 50 at 5,320, down 0.089%. Very minimal declines here. The UK's FTSE 100 index 8,782, down 0.19%. And Stoxx Europe 600 at 543, down 0.072. Very minimal declines. And let's see how things are looking in the US. So, we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average at 43,819. That's up 1%. The Nasdaq Composite 20,273, up 0.5%. The S&P 500 6,173. That's also up 0.5%. Looking at Coinbase Global 353. That's down 5.77%. I'm wondering what has led to that drop there. It seems quite steep. MicroStrategy Inc. at 383, that's down 0.66%. Nvidia Corp 157, up 1.76%. And Tesla, how's that doing? It's 323, that's 0.66%, a decline there. Next up, we'll take a look at Bitcoin. Where is that at the minute? Okay, we're at $107,731 right now. In the last 24 hours, Bitcoin has traded between a low of 107,194, which is the low, and a high of 108,489, the high. Currently hovering around, like I said, 107,731, making a, what is that gain? I'm not sure this is in the last 24 hours, but we've got a 1.3% gain here for the day and a 7.3% rise over the week. Now, technically, Bitcoin has broken key resistance near 108,000, supported by bullish signals like the RSI moving out of oversold territory and MACD Golden Cross. Institutional demand remains strong, with Bitcoin spot ETFs seeing over $2 billion in net inflows this week, contributing to sustained buying pressure. Key support stands at 107,000, while resistance lies between 108,000 and 110,500. A close above these levels could push Bitcoin towards $115,000, $120,000. Overall, the outlook remains bullish, driven by strong momentum and a healthy institutional interest. Okay, we're going to next discuss the UK stock market rebound. It's official. America's stock market comeback is complete. On Friday, the S&P 500 closed at a record high of 6,173. That's the index's first all-time high since mid-February and marks a full rebound after a steep drop earlier this spring. The Nasdaq also finished at a new record. It's the first time that's happened since December. A rally in tech stocks, especially those tied to artificial intelligence, helped drive the surge. Even the Dow joined the party, gaining over 430 points on the day. While it still sits below its own record high, the Dow also posted its biggest weekly gain in 6 weeks. Markets did wobble late Friday afternoon after President Trump said the US would end trade talks with Canada over a new digital services tax. He said new tariffs on Canadian goods would be announced within a week. That spooked investors briefly, but stocks recovered and pushed higher just before the closing bell. The S&P's rebound has been dramatic. From its previous peaks in February to its low point in early April, it lost nearly $10 trillion in value. Since then, it's gained all of that back in just about 80 days. Key moments along the way included the president's sweeping tariffs in April, which rattled markets. But a pause on some of those tariffs, followed by trade frameworks with China and the UK, helped turn things around. On Friday, there was more good news. China said it would reopen its rare earth market to the US. That announcement came just hours after the White House confirmed a deal had been reached. Now investors are watching for more trade deals, a possible interest rate cut, and signs of steady growth. For now, Wall Street is celebrating. But with tariff deadlines, debt ceiling talks, and global tensions still ahead, the road forward remains uncertain. Okay, Anton, what do you make of this? It's nice, a good old stock market rebound in the US.
Everybody loves a stock market rebound. Nothing wrong there. I think it should be mentioned that we're just back to where we were at before the tariffs were put in place. So even though this is kind of being looked at as a major win, we've just recouped what was lost, and we've inched a tiny bit higher. So it's great. Did all that need to happen? I don't know. That's for others to decide. But it's clear that people are feeling confident right now. There was good news about trade talks. There seem to be other trade talks with Canada that are stalling right now. The UK still isn't sure where they're at with the US in terms of steel. So I don't know. I think there's some volatility that remains in the market in the coming few weeks. But I think also Wall Street is just taking Trump a little less seriously. Because they've seen him back off of his
threats,
his most grievous threats.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, once you've seen it happen a few times. I'm also interested in the Canada exchange. Canada have done the U-turn. They've waived or reduced the taxes that they were going to impose on U.S. Tech companies. And so these games that Trump has been playing, it seems like, they're kind of working out in his favor, I hate to say.
They are kind of working.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's been playing chicken, but the U.S. is a tank. It's not a, so it's hard to play chicken with a tank.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And so what do you make of these talks, the stock market performing better, rebounding? How do you think that might impact the price of Bitcoin?
It's interesting, though. You would expect more money to be starting to be funneled into the stock market when it's getting stronger and people are feeling more confident. But I think we're seeing that Bitcoin, there's so many more retail investors that are now involved in Bitcoin, and Bitcoins take up many, main banks' portfolios now, that I think the surge in the stock market is going to cause a surge in Bitcoin as well. I think it kind of moves together at the moment. Bitcoin does when the U.S. stock market is failing, Bitcoin can be seen as sort of a safer asset. But when the stock market's doing well, I think risk appetites become bigger, and therefore riskier, more volatile assets like Bitcoin become more attractive as well. So Bitcoin kind of wins either way.
It does seem to, yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with our top stories of the day, the Global Gist.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back. Here's what's making news today. It's the Global Gist. There's a growing trend on the London markets, and it's all about Bitcoin. More and more companies listed in the UK are adopting what's called a Bitcoin treasury policy. That means instead of holding their reserves in cash, they're keeping some of their money in Bitcoin. Two companies joined the movement this week, GST Technologies and TrueSpine Technologies. GS Technologies is based in Australia and works in digital asset services. After acquiring a crypto platform called Bake, the company says holding Bitcoin makes sense, calling it liquid like cash, but also a long-term store of value. TrueSpine, which makes spinal medical devices in England, also says Bitcoin offers protection, not just from inflation, but from global uncertainty. It plans to put part of its future fundraising into Bitcoin, alongside traditional reserves. They're following in the footsteps of SmarterWeb, a Surrey-based website designer. SmarterWeb's value shot past £1 billion after it became one of the first London-listed firms to adopt this strategy. On Tuesday, the company bought another £15 million worth of Bitcoin, bringing its total holdings to over $42 million. A string of other companies have made similar moves. Volts Capital and Vinans both added Bitcoin to their treasuries this week. Well, probably last week. Volt Ventures has gone a step further, focusing on Ethereum. Even traditional mining companies are pivoting. Panther Metals, Mendel Helium, and Bluebird Mining Ventures are all mixing physical mining with digital assets. Bluebird in particular is planning to mine Bitcoin directly. It just bought over 750 mining computers and secured £2 million in funding. Its new chairman is a long-time crypto investor. Bitcoin itself has had a wild year, jumping 15% so far in 2025, now trading at just under $107,000. For these companies, it's not just about the price. It's a bet that Bitcoin is here to stay, and they want to be part of that future. Okay, Anton, I'm going to cut to you, our producer in the cloud. This is interesting. We were speaking with Susie Violet Ward about this just last week. She was talking about, she's a big advocate for companies, businesses having a Bitcoin treasury. She commented that her partner had used it as a hedge against inflation. And
Oh, that's interesting, for his own company.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she mention any specific percentages that she thought would be
She didn't
good to
actually.
hold?
No, but we can definitely ask her about that when she's back on the show. It shouldn't be too long from
Yeah.
now.
It's an interesting time when governments and companies are doing the exact same thing of just moving money into. I don't know. It's you know, I guess it's at once a way to see if to try to make money on it, but it's also sort of a safer reserve. I think they're considering it a little bit of both. Is that right?
A hedge against inflation is to be the current,
Yeah.
the common through line that we hear time and time again with the reasons why people are doing this. And again, just having the diversification of it can't hurt. I mean, we seemed like a lot of these companies, I'm not sure that they were going all in 100%, but it's definitely mentioned that some of them are doing this to kind of diversify, which I think is a smart move. We were sort of talking about that last week with the Texas having their reserve in Bitcoin and just a small percentage just to hedge their bets in a way. So I think we're going to see more and more companies doing this over time.
Yeah. And what do you make of, you know, this London-listed companies that are, you know, cashing in on the Bitcoin craze and moving money into their treasury, but at the same time, the UK is pretty far behind when it comes to crypto regulations. Do you see sort of a dichotomy here?
I do, and I think this would be another fantastic question for one of our Bitcoin policy regular guests, Susie or Freddie, because I'm curious as to how the companies are doing this, how they're navigating that space, whether they, you know, how are they buying it? What is the process?
Yeah.
Curious when you're when there's no regulation of uncertainty, how do you? And there's quite large sums that people are buying in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
42 million, one of the companies has, I think. So yeah, I'm definitely curious about what that process is for UK-based companies, how they go about that and navigate that.
And as they move more and more money into their own, you know, Bitcoin reserves and make more of their treasuries Bitcoin, what's incentivizing them to stay in the UK and not go to Europe, where they have MiCA, or the US now that it's passed the Genius Act, you know, to have more formal regulations and be able to do more with that money.
Great point.
I think the UK needs to catch up quick because the companies are getting there fast. And yeah.
Definitely, yeah, it's definitely on the back foot, which is unfortunate. And I wonder at what point, I wonder if they're going to go the other way, you know, sort of realizing that they've been dragging their heels and then just, you know, make some brash move, which it feels like the government is always sort of coming up with these crazy schemes because they feel like they're backed into a corner. I wonder if it's going to be that type of rebound, or
Yeah.
the conversations need to start happening.
Maybe we need a brash move.
Maybe.
Let's go for it.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll see. Okay, let's move on to our next Global Gist story, shall we? A new report shows that more than 1 in 4 South Koreans aged 20 to 50 now own cryptocurrency, highlighting just how quickly digital assets are becoming part of everyday investing. According to the Hana Institute of Finance, crypto now makes up around 14% of these investors' total financial portfolios. Interest in crypto is strong across all age groups. People in their 40s are leading the way, with 31% holding crypto. They're followed by those in their 30s at 28% and people in their 50s at 25%. For older investors, retirement planning is a key reason. In fact, more than half of respondents in their 50s said they see crypto as a way to prepare for life after work. Overall, 70% of investors surveyed said they plan to increase their crypto holdings. Some said they'd invest more if banks got more involved. Others pointed to the need for stronger legal protections to feel confident. The way people invest is also changing. More are making regular purchases and holding their investments longer. The number of short-term traders is shrinking, while mid-term and long-term strategies are on the rise. Bitcoin remains the top pick, with 6 out of 10 investors holding it. But as people gain more experience, they're also exploring altcoins and stablecoins. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, and security tokens are still rare in Korea's retail market. This study also shows that people are moving away from relying on friends for crypto tips, now more returning to official exchanges and data platforms to guide their decisions. But this growing market isn't without problems. One big frustration is that investors can't link multiple bank accounts to crypto exchanges. Many say they'd prefer to use their main bank if that rule changed. And while interest is growing, so are concerns. Over half worry about price swings. Others are anxious about fraud or weak exchange security. Experts say Korea's crypto boom may be driven more by financial pressure than belief in the tech itself, as many younger Koreans face unemployment and limited investment options. Anton, this is interesting, especially that last sort of part there, that some believe that it's less about the tech itself and more that they face unemployment and have limited investment options. That's really, it's a shame. Mm-hmm. It's good that there is an alternative, something that they can invest in. It sort of reminds me about, I guess it's just sort of sad and unfortunate, but it's great that they do have an option in Bitcoin. It reminds me when we've spoken about stories about communities in Africa where people don't have access to banking whatsoever, and Bitcoin is something that opens that potential up for people, gives them the opportunity to transact. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it's coming.
Study?
It is coming from an interesting place, like you're saying. I think there's no wonder that we work for a very innovative company that has done so much in the blockchain space, based in Argentina, because they've had a economic situation that has been so volatile over the last 50 years. It's no wonder that they want a second option and something that can produce income and something that they can rely on a bit more, and that's not just tied to their government. So it's interesting where it's coming from, but I think it's also just shows that in South Korea they're really looking to the future a lot more than in other places. We were talking a couple weeks ago about a study that came out that said that people in Liverpool are the most, they've adopted Bitcoin more than any other place in the UK. And the numbers were pretty low compared to here,
That's
right?
true.
What were they at, like 10%?
14%, I think, something around that mark, yeah.
So yeah, compared to, what are we at, 31%?
It depended on age range, but yeah, they were considerably higher. Wait, was it 40%?
Let's see, so people in their 40s were the highest with 31% held crypto.
Yeah.
Followed by people in their 30s at 28% and people in their 50s at 25%. I mean, in their 50s at 25%,
it does seem huge.
That's really high.
Yeah.
Ever since we started talking about that a couple weeks ago about Liverpool. I started asking more friends if they have crypto, and I think my number's gone down. I thought I had, in my circle of friends, I had about 13% of them that owned crypto and Bitcoin. I think it's lower now.
What would you guess it is now?
I think it's maybe like 5 to 7. It's getting skewed now working for Roxom, but
That's true. That's true.
but outside of that,
yeah.
I think it is pretty low, and maybe that's just the West.
Yeah.
You know?
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, I think it was with Susie last week, about, especially as Brits, we haven't had the volatility that people in countries like Argentina have. We haven't had to rely on it. So maybe there is something to be said for that less adoption or less usage, the people that have kind of had it easy, and probably more adoption in countries where things are a bit uncertain.
Yeah.
And there are less opportunities. So that kind of makes sense and correlates.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with some more Global Gist stories.
Security matters. Zappo Bank. The only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back to our Global Gist segment with the latest Bitcoin and tech stories from around the world. Up next, crypto-linked cards are quickly catching up to traditional banks in Europe when it comes to everyday spending, especially for small purchases. A new report from crypto exchange CXIO shows that nearly half of all crypto card transactions in Europe are for amounts under 10 euros or around $12. That's the kind of spending where cash has traditionally dominated. What's changing is how people are using these cards. They're not just buying crypto or making big investments. They're buying groceries, paying for dinner, and shopping online. In fact, crypto card holders are now making 40% of their purchases online, nearly double the European average for regular bank cards. Spending habits with crypto cards now look a lot like traditional banking. Grocery shopping makes up nearly 60% of transactions. Bars and restaurants account for about 19%. That's actually higher than the average for in-person food and drink spending, according to the European Central Bank. The average crypto card transaction is just under 24 euros, or about £21. For bank cards, that number is closer to £28. Still, crypto spending is rising fast. CXIO reports a 24% jump in card payment volumes just last month. The report also shows that 73% of transactions are powered by stablecoins, the digital currencies that are designed to hold a steady value. Other popular coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are also being used for everyday purchases. And the trend doesn't stop with one provider. Obit and Crypto.com have reported similar patterns, with strong usage for daily spending and online shopping across Europe. But not everyone's on board. Barclaycard has announced plans to block crypto purchases on its credit cards. The bank says it's concerned about customer debt, and the lack of protections if things go wrong. Since crypto purchases don't qualify for government-backed financial safeguards, Barclays says the risk is too high for credit-based spending. Even so, crypto cards appear to be gaining ground in how Europe shops, spends, and goes cashless. Anton, our producer above, this was very surprising to me. That is a huge percentage of people using these cards that I had no idea it was happening.
I had no idea either. It is surprising. Especially I just want to hold. I don't want to spend any of my Bitcoin. I just want to keep it as an investment right now, not spend it. But I mean, this is the way it should be going, and I think it's a good thing. They made it clear that they're not spending big amounts. It's all micro payments, which makes more sense.
Yeah.
But have you ever had a crypto card? Have you ever spent?
No, I don't. I honestly don't even really get how it works. Is there a way of kind of looking into a kind of summary? I do understand where Barclaycard are coming from, though, from a credit perspective. They they're lending people. Well, I don't really even understand how that works, because they're lending people the money to make purchases.
Right.
I guess I'm a bit confused with how they're all connected and how the crypto cards work. Is there a summary there?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot like a credit card. Let me pop this in
A
here.
credit card or a debit card?
Debit card. You're
Okay.
right. Well, there's.
Crypto cards, both debit and credit.
Oh, our operator is saying he has one. He
Oh.
uses it.
Oh, can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about it? I'll relay it to Ione. So he uses something called off-ramp.
Okay.
It's a crypto card. It's prepaid.
Okay.
Transfer your crypto into your card, and then you can use it from there. So it is pretty much like a prepaid debit card.
Interesting. And so what's the reason for using that as opposed to a standard debit card for his use?
Yeah. When would you use this over a regular debit card?
Or what is the reason for choosing to use this?
When you want to spend crypto and not US dollars or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So more freedom, I guess, with these.
And it can be used, how does it be, is it only certain vendors will accept it? Or is it anywhere where Visa's accepted, it just sort of converts it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Go ahead. It's a Visa debit card, MasterCard debit card. Yeah, so it's widely accepted.
So this card gets topped up with the crypto, and then you'll just pay, if it's a USD vendor, they would just get it would be converted to USD, and then they would pay the vendor.
Right.
Thing. Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I never knew. Okay, very cool. Let's check out our next Global Gist story. As thousands of crypto leaders head to Cannes this week for the ETHCC, I think that's how you say it, the Ethereum Community Conference, France is once again in the global spotlight. But while developers focus on building the future of finance, a darker trend is unfolding alongside the innovation. France now leads the world in violent crypto-related crime. That's according to the May 2025 Global Guardian Risk Barometer, which tracked 5 kidnappings and extortion attempts in France this year alone, more than any other country. One of the most shocking incidents happened last month. The daughter of Pierre Noisat, CEO of crypto exchange Paymium, was nearly kidnapped in broad daylight in Paris. She was saved thanks to her partner and quick-thinking bystanders. Earlier this year, Ledger co-founder David Balland and his wife were kidnapped in central France. Balland's finger was cut off during the attack. The criminals demanded a ransom in crypto, which was partially paid before French special forces rescued the couple. These aren't isolated cases. In June, a 23-year-old was lured into a fake meeting near Paris and held until his partner handed over cash and a crypto hardware wallet. The attackers had tracked him through his social media posts. These types of attacks, known as wrench attacks, use physical force to steal crypto, and they're no longer just targeting billionaires. Everyday investors are now at risk. France's rise in crypto crimes is being blamed on 3 things: high public visibility of crypto leaders, gaps in platform-level security, and growing interest from organized crime. Some French crypto CEOs are now hiring private security or even applying for gun permits. As ETHCC gets underway, attendees are being urged to stay alert. Experts recommend traveling quietly, avoiding solo meetings, and storing funds in secure hardware wallets. France has become a global hub for crypto innovation, but it's also become a hotspot for real-world threats. As the industry pushes forward, safety can't be an afterthought. Crypto might be decentralized, but personal security shouldn't be. Wow, so interesting, that story there. We actually have a special edition Roxom report tomorrow about safety and security of yourself and Bitcoin. But yeah, it is a very real threat, and I can understand why these concerns are coming out, especially an event being held in France because of this. Interestingly, we had a few guests that have been to events, Bitcoin events, And there wasn't like a huge amount of talk about fears about this. I wonder if like now this is like a new wave where these types of warnings or advice is going to start coming out for events, or maybe it's just because it's in France and that's where we've seen some of these quite brazen attacks.
Yeah, well, it's not only in France. I mean, there was one in New York City just a few weeks ago. I think it's becoming more of a thing now with these wrench attacks, they call them, where there's in-person violent attacks. You know, there's been plenty of scams for
Virtual.
the entire history of cryptocurrency, virtually, but now we're seeing more of them in person. It was interesting that they're happening so much in France, and this article that I'm showing up on the screen says that it's because that what France has become a very Web3 friendly company, very
Country, you mean?
Country, very early on. But that, I don't know, that doesn't really explain it. Yes, they might have more people that are in the know, and they may have more high-profile people who everybody knows owns a lot of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but still doesn't make sense why is so much of it happening in France, a country they don't think of when you think of kidnappings or anything like that traditionally.
Yeah, I can't think of why it's to the point of it, that they're ahead of the game in terms of being friendly to cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and things like that. There's places in Switzerland that is very similar. You know, I think Zug is the sort of the Silicon Valley of Europe, or Switzerland specifically, and there's things are very Bitcoin Web3 friendly there, and we're not hearing about these attacks there. It's a good thing that the government is stepping up and offering a lot of support and emergency access to the police services for people in France. It's a shame it's kind of got to this for that to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, how would you, I'm not sure that governments or police forces would proactively know how to have to do this. I do wonder at those bigger events, and maybe this is a question for some of our regular guests who have been at these events, what the security is like there. I mean, Michael Saylor's always speaking at these events. What's his security entourage like? I imagine it's pretty sustainable, comprehensive.
I think it's safe to assume it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
He probably has around everywhere.
I guess. I mean, when you see him at things, though, it's not like he's, I mean, I haven't seen any of these events. I haven't been to any of them, but it's not like he's surrounded by, 50 henchmen. But I guess he's always just sort of sat on stage. But yeah, there has to be some level.
Good. They're in the crowd. You don't even see them.
You don't even know they're there. Yeah, stealth security. That's what you want. Right. But yeah, it is a real concern, which is actually why we have put together the special edition show for tomorrow. So make sure you are around at 1 p.m. to catch that live. Any other thoughts about this story?
I think just be vigilant. Keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into more detailed safety tips on tomorrow's show. Okay, we're going to take one last quick break, and we are going to be back with our Buck the System story.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back. Next up, we're looking at disruption, innovation, and the fight against centralized control. This isn't just about Bitcoin, it's about the powerful stories that embody decentralization, transparency, and freedom, and fundamentally reshape how things are done. This is Buck the System. Bhutan, a small Himalayan kingdom known for its mountain views and national happiness index, has quietly become one of the world's biggest Bitcoin players. New data from crypto platform Arkham shows Bhutan holds around $1.3 billion in Bitcoin, about 40% of the country's entire economy. That makes it the third largest government holder of Bitcoin in the world. But Bhutan didn't buy its Bitcoin on the market. It mined it. Since 2020, the country has used its abundant hydropower to run energy-hungry Bitcoin mining machines. The project was led by Druk Holdings and Investments, Bhutan's sovereign wealth fund. Its CEO, Urdjwal Deep Dal, said they see Bitcoin like gold, a store of value. Bhutan has built at least 6 government-run mining sites, starting with a small experiment in 2019. The first setup overheated and triggered an alarm at 3 a.m. But by the end of 2020, Bhutan was mining full-time, even as borders closed during the pandemic. Hydropower has long been the backbone of Bhutan's economy, but Bitcoin profits are now helping offset drops in energy exports. In 2023, Bhutan sold $100 million in Bitcoin to fund 2 years of pay rises for civil servants. The country is also working with private firms like Bitdeer from Singapore. Under the deal, Bitdeer gets the Bitcoin, but pays Bhutan's electricity bills in US dollars. Not everyone was aware of the project. Some officials raised concerns about transparency and how the money is being used, but for many Bhutanese, the results are real. One analyst said his salary went up 65% and he hadn't even heard of Bitcoin before. Bhutan now plans to hold onto most of its Bitcoin. It also launched a crypto payment system for tourists and is building a new tech-focused district where digital currency will play a central role. For a country with no traffic lights in its capital, Bhutan's bet on Bitcoin is bold, but so far it's paying off. Okay, Anton, producer above, what do you make of this? I know that Bhutan is a country that's on your visit list, wish list.
Yes, you know I love Bhutan. I've always wanted to go there. It's a difficult country to travel to. The visas are very expensive. They keep it that way on purpose. I think the last time I looked, it was like a $500 a day visa. You have to go with a company to tour you around.
Wow.
They like things the way they are, and they don't want tourists ruining that, and I respect that.
But what do you think of this, though? I mean, because on one hand you have this, Himalayan kingdom that is largely cut off from tourism and well, I was going to say modern things, but I don't think that's a correct assumption of Bhutan. They're showing that they're moving in a more tech-focused way. It's not as if the people of Bhutan, they have phones. They kind of are living in the 21st century, it seems like.
Yeah, but most of the country is still very rural. And yes, they have phones, they have internet. And I think they're moving their country in like a very interesting direction where they are keeping those cultural roots and what the country is all about intact while still
moving with the times.
Yeah, moving with the times and trying to keep up. I mean, they don't want to be a poor country while they don't want to be forced into that, I guess, while everything's moving forward. And the fact that they can create this economy while still maintaining their roots, I think is really interesting. And they said they want to bring in that, Bitcoin tourism, but they still are capping it pretty strictly. I think they said it. What was it, 300,000?
I missed that actually.
Well, either way, yeah, I think it's a new interesting development from a really fascinating country.
I was fascinated by the amount. I think their economy is now reliant on, well, the amount that they've mined in Bitcoin is 40% of their economy. It's huge.
Yeah, it's enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also very smart the way that they've taken something like the hydropower. I mean, there's only so much hydropower and they're using it to mine Bitcoin. And when there's downtimes where people aren't buying the energy off them, they're using it to mine Bitcoin. I think it's pretty, I'm really impressed with how forward thinking it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they definitely think differently over there. I think I was telling you the other day about the National Happiness Index where they send happiness agents all over the country to survey people, which I thought was I thought that was kind of just a PR story. We're the happiest country in the world. I don't know, what does that mean exactly? But they take it seriously, and it informs domestic policy based on what these surveys come back with and how they can help the people in the country. It's really different from any country I've ever lived in.
Yeah, and the pay increases for civil servants, that's not something you hear very often.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thank you for your takes there. Well, that's all we have time for today on the Roxom Report. Next up, it's The Great Awakening with Nolan. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. with our special edition of the show focused on security and safety. We'll cover how to protect your assets, avoid scams, and stay ahead of the latest threats in crypto and beyond. You won't want to miss it. See you then. I think so.